2022 has come and gone, and with it was a lot of video games. Some of them great, some of them not so great. But today we're going to talk about my personal favorites. If there are any games that I don't mention here that might be one of your favorites, it could be because either I didn't play it or it's not my favorite. This is my list, not yours. We can consider this the second installment of what I've decided to possibly call Portly Pod, like a sort of loose, lightly edited, unscripted, podcasty format kind of thing, where I talk to you about a certain topic, and you guys feel free to comment and give your input about how you feel about the certain topic with which it is. Which today, as I've already mentioned, is the games of 2022. My favorite games of 2022. I'm not going to go in any particular order, but I am going to save my game of the year for last, just because that's kind of the thing to do. I'm also going to try to be as spoiler-free as possible, maybe a few kind of hints at things, but nothing specific that will give anything away. By the way, I'm probably not going to show much footage of these games because I'm trying to get this video out quick, and I mean, you probably know what they look like. You've got YouTube. You're on YouTube right now. Just look up a trailer. First up is a little indie gem called Stray. I'm sure many of you guys have at least been interested in this. On day one, it was available as part of PlayStation Plus, and so I dropped a few bucks for that to try the game out, and I played through it in just a couple of days. It's not a very long game. It's only about 6 hours or so. But it was definitely a memorable experience. I mean, you play as a cat in a world full of different robots, and it was a pretty cute, kind of lighthearted adventure game, although there were some elements of, I don't even know if I'd say horror, but definitely spooky-ish parts in the game where you had to run from these things. Best I can describe that they kind of look like little chickens, but not like chickens, like raw, skinless, or featherless chickens. Maybe that's just me, but that's what they look like, kind of, to the best of my memory. That's not a spoiler, by the way, that's in the trailers for the game. And the more you explored, the more you would find collectibles, the more you would find side quests, and so on. And for me, it just made me get a lot out of the game, even in that short time that it took to finish. Plus, I mean, you get to play as a cat. Who doesn't love cats? If you don't love cats, you're mistaken. I'm sorry. Next up on my list, I want to give a last-minute shout-out to High on Life. That game just dropped earlier this month, and it was available on Game Pass day one, so I put down $1 for another month of Game Pass Ultimate and decided to try it out, and I played through that in just a few days as well. If you're not familiar with the game, it's a first-person shooter that takes place in space, and it is kind of written by Justin Roiland. I believe it's written by him, I'm not sure, but he definitely stars in it, so if you're into Rick and Morty, that is the guy that did Rick and Morty, as well as the voices of Rick and Morty, and you'll recognize his voice as the main gun in the game. That's the thing too, the guns can talk, and it's actually pretty great. The whole game is hilarious throughout. It's not a game I would recommend playing in front of the kids, but it is a fun experience, and if you're into that kind of humor of shows like Rick and Morty, you're gonna fit right in here. The gameplay was pretty decent. It was actually fun. It kind of reminded me a bit of like Halo with a little bit of Doom. Not quite to that extreme, but it was very similar. You could definitely see the influence it had. There's even a gun that is basically a straight up needler from Halo. If you have an Xbox Series S or X, or you have a capable gaming PC, if you've got one of those, just sign up for a month of Game Pass to play the game. It is definitely worth it. Or you could just buy it to support the devs and all the work they put into it, because they definitely put a lot of work into this game. Next up on my list is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I've played so many JRPGs throughout this year, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is, I think, maybe the only one I've finished. As much as I love to play JRPGs, I never really finished them. I have a hard time. They're really long games. I don't have that kind of time. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is no exception. I think I probably put 60 to 80 hours somewhere in there, and it was definitely worth it. If you've never played any of these Xenoblade Chronicles games, you don't have to play those to play this one, but I feel like personally, you definitely get more out of the third game if you have played the first two. You've got a team of 6 characters, sometimes 7, because you've got these optional heroes that you can have recruited into your party throughout the game. You can unlock different classes for each character, and they've all got different roles like DPS, tank, and healer, and the combat kind of feels similar to something like Final Fantasy XIV if you've ever played that. It's one of the prettier games on the Switch as well, in my opinion, and it runs really well too. Of course, you know, the Switch has its limitations, and for a game of this scale, it's pretty impressive that they're able to do what they did with it, especially when you look at games like Pokemon Violet and Scarlet, which struggled. The microphone is struggling here as well. But the game is actually pretty fun. The combat is cool. It's not turn-based, but it's like not quite an action game. You can change between whatever characters you want on the fly as well. So that's pretty cool. It lets you choose different classes and just play as whatever you want to play as at that moment. That all said, the best part of that game, as well as the best part of a lot of good JRPGs, is the story. The story just had me hooked from the beginning all the way through to the end, and I beat that game in about, I think, 2 months. Again, very rare for me to finish a JRPG, but you know that I like this series if I've played through all the games. Except for X, I never finished X. One game that I only started playing recently but really sunk its claws into me was Ghostwire Tokyo. This game didn't get a lot of love, not a lot of great reviews when it launched, and honestly I think if you skip this one because of those reviews, you should give this one another look. I'm planning to talk about this one more in another video because I really liked it a lot and think it deserves more attention. If you like the satisfaction of finding a bunch of collectibles, doing side quests, and checking off boxes, as well as freely exploring a huge urban area, I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had here. I've sunk a lot of time into it, and I plan to continue the game so I can talk more about it in depth in the future. Okay, so now we're gonna get to my 2 top games of the year. I know I said I wasn't really doing this in a particular order, and I'm still not, but these are my favorite 2. And we're going to start with my second to last. And really, this is a hard one because I want to put it first, but there's just reasons that I can't. And that's God of War Ragnarok. I absolutely loved God of War Ragnarok. I had to stop myself from playing it for a bit because I was flying through that game way too fast. And with games being $70 now, I didn't want to just fly through that thing in a whole week. I really took my time with it. I took breaks, played other games, and came back. The exploration and side quests are all super rewarding because you get to beef up Kratos as much as you can by unlocking different unlockables, and the side quests make it so you learn more things about the characters and you get to see them interact in ways you wouldn't get to see if you just streamline through the main story. That just gives you so much more depth and story to grab onto and really just attach yourself to these characters and immerse yourself in this world. And I gotta hand it to them. They knocked it out of the park with Ragnarok, and I think it deserves all those 10 out of 10s that it got. But there's one game that got more. You know what I'm talking about. It's Elden Ring. Elden Ring is my game of the year. Now, full disclosure, I did not finish the main story of Elden Ring. I still plan to, but I didn't. I put so many hours into that game. I probably put 80 hours at least, which is a lot for me to put into a game. I mean, I beat Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in the amount of time that I put into Elden Ring. But it was just that game of the year for a lot of people, not just in how good it is and how fun it is, but in just how impactful it was. Everywhere you looked when that game launched, there were clips on like TikTok and Instagram, there was videos about it, there were Let's Plays and streams and so on. Everyone was talking about it. All of my friends actually played it, which is very rare. I don't think I've ever seen a time where all of my friends were playing the same game at the same time. It had a lot of impact for a lot of people for a big reason. It's a big game and it's got a lot going for it. If you haven't tried Elden Ring, you've been on the fence, definitely try it out. It is a hard game. It is a Souls-like game. It's difficult. That's one of the reasons I put it down, is because I just kind of got to a point where I was too frustrated and needed to take a break. And now it's been like 8 months since I've played it. But definitely deserves my top spot as Game of the Year, as well as the award that it got at the Game Awards and wherever else it's getting Game of the Year stuff. It's a great game. It's super, super important game. And yeah, I mean, it's Elden Ring. At this point, we all know what's up with Elden Ring. And there it is, my quick and dirty list of games of the year for 2022. My personal favorites that I really liked. What are some of your personal favorites? I really like to know in the comments. Tell me what you liked, if you agreed with any of these games, if you disagreed, if you have any of your own that maybe I didn't talk about at all that you would like to share. Do let me know in the comments. I'm really, really curious. And by the way, if you have any suggestions for future topics to talk about on this show, let me know. I can't promise that I'm going to listen to your topic and use it, but I could always use suggestions and ideas, and feedback from you guys would be great. I plan to do more of these and more gaming and just nerd adjacent content in 2023, in addition to some of the tech reviews that I do. So I'm going to have a little bit of something for everyone. So if you're new here, consider subscribing and make sure to check out another video if you would like to. And yeah, I'm out of here. Make sure you hit that like button and share this video with a friend. All right, I'm out.